somebody else. We need one more.
I'm sure one of them will come on. We still have a couple of minutes.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah, I think you have a link. I'll send it to you again. No. Yeah, Dave is joining.
Okay, we're up and running.
1 second, let me just send the latest link to Dale.
Yeah, we just need
Oh.
So it looks like we have 2 attendees right now.
yeah, that's 63 Buena Vista is the first one.
Okay.
And 65 Wargrove, that's Spencer Leaf is the first one. That's the first application.
So we have Brandon. We have Brandon.
Okay,
so
so
we
if-
have quorum.
You can
If
make,
you are
once they-
participating,
Go ahead.
sorry. Okay, and we have Larry too. If you're participating via Zoom, either by phone or by video, you can raise your hand and we will call on residents in the order in which they do so, just as if you were lining up at the microphone during an in-person meeting. In order to raise your hand for those participating by video, you should click on the icon labeled participants and a column appears on the right-hand side. At the bottom of that window is the raise your hand button. For participants calling in by phone, you could push *9 in order to raise your hand, and we will let you know when it's your turn by calling your name or your phone number, depending on how you are participating. And Chairman, you can start.
It's 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. Today is the May 11th meeting of the Architecture and Historic Review Board. Today we have a short agenda. The next meeting will be June 8th, I believe. June 8th.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first application on our agenda is 65 Walgrove. In addition, is the applicant available?
That's Spencer Leaf, Jen. You can make him a participant.
Yes, I just made him a panelist.
Okay.
Hi, I cut out there for a second. I missed the last few words you were saying, Mr. Rosenkrantz. Is it our turn to present?
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't know if it's possible for me to share the PDF that I sent previously, or if everyone just has it in front of them. I don't know what would be the easier way to.
You can share your screen if you want to share your screen and go through it.
Okay, why don't we do that then? The last time that I presented was actually late February. I know comments were given at a March 9th meeting when I was in the hospital with my wife. So everything here should be fairly familiar. It's not substantially different than what was shown even at that March 9th meeting. But I hope to provide a little bit of background and context to what's included here. So I think to begin, I'd just like to go through this presentation page by page, providing context where I can. The design study 1 that should be on the screen now is actually where we ended up at the end of our first SD phase. We had about 9 months of SD on this project. The first phase looked at keeping much of the existing house exactly how it is and just additions to support the needs of the growing family. And this is where that exercise left. We actually had this priced out, and after reviewing pricing and the scope, the owners felt that for the amount of energy and cost of the work, and that it really wasn't addressing their needs as they saw. So this design study of extending that second floor volume, playing with that existing cantilevered step on the front and on the side as well, adding a deck over the garage. This was largely because the addition over the garage at this time was an extension of the master suite, and a home office was going to be connected to that deck space over the garage. After looking at all of the budget and design, the owners felt it was really worth redoing SD, taking away the limitation of maintaining the existing layout of the second story, and see how the house could really better suit them. When we did that, the design that really served the needs of the family well was to actually build 2 children's bedrooms as the addition over the garage. So this design study 1 is the only one that looks at having a deck off of over the garage, because it was the study that was done when the room connected to that deck would actually benefit from having it there. So we looked at this study. Another issue that came up with this was we realized that it really did create a large volume in that sky exposure plane up against the north property line of the building. And we really wanted to try and address that as well. Design study 2 was essentially recommended to us at our first AHRB meeting as something the board thought we should study, particularly how a sort of sunroom-like volume could be the addition over the garage. We looked at this 2 ways. There's a design study 2A and a 2B. I think on its face, it seemed like there was some promising opportunities here. It did help reduce the amount of volume in the sky exposure plane. However, we had some significant issues with both its effect on other parts of the house and how it essentially appeared in relation to other parts of the building. So in order to have the gutter line continue around and create sort of a continuous roof eave element, because of the way a flat roof is framed versus a pitched roof, we actually had to lower the ceiling height about 16 inches in the addition, as opposed to the rest of the second story. Given that the ceiling height in the existing house is only 8 feet to begin with, that put the ceiling height at less than 7 feet, so it would require us to drop the floor as well. Because the kitchen extends into a portion of the space below this volume, would actually create a 1 foot soffit and a 7 foot ceiling in half of the open kitchen, and really create any number of challenges for framing the house. Additionally, I don't know if you can see it as well. See if we can move it over. The second story addition being different from the rest of the house when the walls in the same plane as the existing house creates a really uncomfortable condition of facade materials changing drastically all within the same plane. It exists both on the north elevation and on the east elevation. Additionally, because the addition is for children's bedrooms, the transparency and openness that's inherent in a sunroom doesn't translate very well to that program. Even when we increase the amount of glazing substantially, we still end up with large portions of the facade that will be essentially a version of board and batten, creating an entirely different type of facade material in the composition. And it really doesn't create that counterpoint to the sunroom on the south. To try and address some of those conditions, we looked at a 2B, where we created that whole wing as essentially maintaining that same language, although the garage and mudroom spaces really have all of the same challenges of just not being programmed that want to be transparent. And so it ends up being this alternate sort of board and batten type facade expression. Also, in this version, in order to make a clear wing onto the existing house, the volume extends quite far forward because of the existing garage, and it really creates too heavy and massive a wing for the house. As we started to look at how we could comply fully with sky exposure plane, we did a version where we have essentially a hip roof with 4 gables, given that the gables are permitted to break that plane. And while this version does technically comply fully with the sky exposure plane, it really doesn't appear right for the building, in my personal opinion. The colonial, particularly the Garrison colonial style, is not a style that has hip roofs. It has sort of more architectural flourish than the style would typically allow, which is where we ended up with our design study 4, which is our proposed design, looking at creating a contextual and deferential addition over the garage. What we really tried very hard to do here was to allow the addition over the garage to sit back from the main building and allow that original charming, actually colonial symmetrical facade to have a presence as this original charming building that it is. To do that, we set the facade back from the street facade, and we also dropped the roof about 18 inches in order to really emphasize it as seeming stepped back as opposed to the roofs there having a bit of a clash. In order to still have windows that matched the same window size and height as the adjacent windows, we employed a wall dormer to allow that top of the window height to be above the eave on that roof. And we've also reoriented the garage roof to be a gable roof to make it stand out as, or not stand out, to make it stand apart as essentially its own structure. Dealing with that garage has been something that we were challenged or found challenging throughout the project, given that it is so prominent, and we're trying to address it in a way that made it have less of an impact on the house. So that's where we've ended up with this as the proposed design. As I mentioned, this was a long process that we went through, the owners and I, over 9 months of tweaking and pushing and testing. And this is really what works best to serve their needs as a young growing family. The other pages here are essentially reference images. I know at the first meeting there was some talk about a wall dormer as whether or not that was contextual to the colonial style. So we wanted to show images of other wall dormers in colonial buildings, which we feel look quite natural. We also wanted to explore second story sunrooms and see if we could find any contextual images of a sunroom-like space on a second story that was different from the space below it, and we weren't able. These are 4 images that are referential of many images we found showing that whenever a sunroom space on a second story exists, typically it's part of a 2-story sunroom-like addition. Have two more pages here, which are not pages that we presented previously. But I wanted to speak to the relationship of the addition to the property to the north. For those of you who don't remember, the property's on a corner, so the only neighbors are to the north and to the east. The east neighbor is quite far away. It's actually, there's a vacant lot that's been included in that property between the two. But the proximity to the neighbor to the north, 59 Walgrove, is really the issue at hand. We have here an existing satellite image taken from Google, which we've modeled in the existing building to show the difference between what's being proposed and the existing. Similarly, from Google Street View, we've photoshopped in roughly what the addition would look like and have dotted in what the existing volume of the building was. We've really worked to hold the mass of this addition as far to the back as we can to really minimize its impact on the increase in height closest to the building and closest to the street. And then lastly here we have just a quick sort of massing montage of what's being proposed and what's existing. You can see here in the existing photo the scale and really sort of overly large proportion of the garage addition now. So in the front half of this existing garage addition, we're only increasing the height about 3 feet. So that's generally what the little bit of context on the project and our process in getting to where we have now ended up is what we're presenting.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, can hear you now.
Oh, perfect. Okay. We had some I had to switch to my iPhone for talking and hearing. But before we make any comments, do we have any neighbors that would like to discuss this? Jennifer, do we have any neighbors?
If anybody's on, just raise your hand if you're here to speak on this. Right
Okay.
now, no one has their hands
All
raised.
right. I'll venture a couple of comments, then Deepti, Brandon, you can join me. Thank you for the presentation. It's very clear, very thorough. I tend to agree with you that the study number 4, or the proposed addition, is the one that works best. I have only one comment that it's subjective, but it's a comment that I think it's will help the proposal as a suggestion that will help reinforce what you're trying to do, and it has to do with the roof of the garage.
I agree. I know where you're going with this.
And I think it has to be a flat roof with a deck. And the main reason is because of the centrality of the colonial proposal in the middle. If you, it kind of, and might be because proportionally they look about the same as the entryway, it kind of deflects your attention to the left. And being the size of the garage, it's a one-car garage, it looks like an oversized door. So you kind of, shifts the center of the house to the left, and it's a kind of so if in a way, if you do it as a flat roof with a nice rail, even if it's accessible or not, that's up to you. I think will reinforce. I will definitely try to persuade you to use some landscaping on the flat roof, but that's up to you.
So
The other question is, the other two things is maintaining the character of the windows at 6/6, which is, I think it's what you're trying to do on the new proposed windows on the elevations.
Yes.
I drove by the place a couple of times over the weekend. So I agree that the reality is that the sky exposure plane, it's in this kind of streets and conditions, is very difficult to deal with, and you do have the right to penetrate it by means of dormers, etc., etc. So if you take one of the studies that you prepare, which is as of right penetrations, and you compare it to the ones that you the study number 4 of the proposed massing, the penetrations or the intrusions to the sky exposure planes are minimal. So I will go with your proposal, and I think besides saying that, I see that one of the side elevations, they have an entry door to the side. I think it's some stairs, and you might need to provide lighting. Let's make sure that the lighting is compliant with the exterior lighting regulations.
Mhm.
That needs to be noted on the plans. And with that, Brandon, Dipti, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That was my first thought also. I have no problem with option 4, but I don't know if you've done that option already with a flat roof over the garage. I see that you had it with the other options.
It's something that we didn't study with this, but I think it's an interesting comment. And while I don't know, if the railing would be appropriate if we don't have it as a deck space, but I think as a flat roof, if it were to match similar detailing to the flat roof of the sunroom, I think that could be an interesting option, and I'd be happy to look at that.
Exactly. I think what it will do is it won't fight with the dormer that you're putting on, because right now there seems to be, a sort of conflict between the two.
I think that's a very fair comment. I'm happy to look at a flat roof over that garage component.
And next question I have, how is your wife and baby?
They're good. They're upstairs right now. But yeah, two months ago, or two months old as of Saturday.
Well, at least everything happened before all this broke up, right?
Yeah, well, just barely. We went into the hospital on the 9th and everything was normal. And when we came home from the hospital on I think it was the 12th, the hospital was already in lockdown. So it was every day we were there, it was changing. But very grateful to have been in when we were, and not a week or so later. Would have been much scarier.
Thank God.
That's great. So Brandon?
Yeah, my only comment, if you are going to go about looking at a flat roof on the garage, does that allow for the wall dormer to go away and then kind of continue with the same pitched roof on the addition portion as well?
So if the pitched roof over the garage were to go away, it would allow us to lower the windows on that wall to a point where we could eliminate the roof dormer. However, then the windows would be very low on the wall. And so what happens with the garage roof doesn't really have an impact on the roof of the addition being able to increase in height. That's really due to us trying to step back that second story addition in order to let the original house have that prominence.
And the windows on the second story are aligned, so to speak, right? At the same elevation.
Yes, they have the same head and sill height.
Okay. So yeah, as long as they would be the 6/6, and
yep,
that would be my only. I didn't know if there was an intention to use shutters as well.
Simulated divided lights, right?
Right.
SDL minimum. True lights or simulated divided lights.
Yeah, the window manufacturer we're looking at doesn't offer true divided light, so it would be simulated
Okay.
divided lights.
Yes, perfect. Okay. All right.
And then I don't know if
So-
you would put shutters on the same, right?
Yeah, it's the images that's still up on the screen is just a massing, but we would like to have the same shutters and have it really keep that same rhythm of windows, the 6/6 or the double 6/6 with the shutters on either side.
Right.
Okay. Just to wrap up my comments, is the rail or no rail, it's your decision. I thought that if you have a flat roof that someone can enjoy, why not? But that's it. I think that the dormer reinforces the centrality of the main house, so I think it's a good thing, and it's at the same within the same character of trying, the flat roof over the garage, trying not to compete with the main entrance of the house also.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically.
Paul and Dale are also on, so I don't know if they have any comments or.
Okay.
And we can't see you, Yair, unless it's just me.
You can see me?
Nope.
Seriously?
I think it's a matter of expanding.
Yeah, you're actually on 2 cameras.
I am on 2 cameras because I can hear you from only from my phone.
Double the
Anyway.
audio.
Okay.
So I believe that the fourth scheme is much more sensitive to the existing house. And the dormer, with the addition of the new vestibule at the entry door, does reinforce the main entry to the house and has a nice tie-in. I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Paul?
He may have fallen, he may have dropped off.
All right.
If,
Do you-
by the way, but just to, if you didn't, if the flat roof doesn't work and there isn't a scheme, I agree that the fourth is best. I personally like it as submitted, so. If you run into any hiccups or anything to that effect that don't allow for something, that's just my take.
Okay. Do we give Paul the chance to?
He's back.
Yeah, I was,
Yes.
for some reason, I'm not exactly sure why. I apologize. My only comment, I like the wall dormer. I think it's a good proposal, and thank you for going through so much trouble. Kind of tweaking the design to get it to where we're, I think, close to optimal. My only issue, the window above the door on the main structure is small presently, and as you expand and enlarge in the doorway, the window above it is larger now. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
I don't know. Does anybody else agree that maybe the smaller window as that's there presently might look better over that larger doorway?
The one comment I'd just like to make about that is currently that window is into a bathroom.
Okay.
But we're removing that bathroom, and actually the space above the entryway now is going to be a home office, and so we wanted to try and get as much light into that home office space as we could. So that was the reason behind it.
Okay, I understood. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, I think we'll have another shot at this too, because this is I would imagine a continuation until we see a final scheme, unless it's just for review, so.
Well, we can, what do you think?
It would
It
have
looks
to
like
be
pretty
conti-
significant changes there.
There is no
Without-
significant. We would like to see the flat roof, but I think it would work.
We would have to continue it though, I think, until we have a drawing.
Okay, so let's continue it. You can submit. I think we could submit a digital file prior to the application, so we can expedite it. We already had the discussion, so if everybody is okay, we can expedite the approvals for the next one.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I can draw it and discuss it with the owners and just make sure that they're comfortable with that as well. And send an email with whatever we decide to do.
But in essence, the main issues are covered, and we are all in agreement that this is minor detailing. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Already, so I make a motion to continue this application based on the discussions, and do I have a second? And Brandon seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
I only contest once, not twice. Okay. Thank you, and good luck with the family.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is anyone here to speak for 39 Hamilton Street?
I don't see anybody for 39 Hamilton. I don't know who Al is.
Oh, yep, here we go.
So
Hi,
one sec.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm Al, but I'm here for 63 Buena Vista Drive.
Okay.
You're just asking who I was. I'll mute my phone now. Thank you.
No, this is for 39 Hamilton, but I don't think anybody's here for 39 Hamilton.
So
Because,
why don't we do this? Why don't we go to 63 Buena Vista, and we give some time, and we push 39 Hamilton to the end of the agenda. So
that's fine.
okay. Okay, so let's review now 63 Buena Vista. Anybody for 63 Buena Vista?
Hi, I'll speak for that property, and I believe Nate Kessman is the contractor who's also on the phone.
Hi there. I was just, hello?
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Hi, I was just promoted to panelist. Thank you so much. Wonderful. This is
Okay.
great. Thanks to the board for making these making it possible to do this via Zoom. I appreciate that. You should all have a copy of the deck plans, I believe.
We do.
Okay. Give me one moment here. So it's a pretty simple request to demolish and replace an existing deck on 63 Buena Vista Drive. There are no variances needed to the side or rear setbacks. All the mailings are in order to the neighbors. Again, simple construction would be pressure treated framing with cedar deck and rail boards. It's going to match the current style of the home and should not negatively impact the look and feel of the neighborhood. I'm happy to answer any questions as the project manager. We also have the architect with us as well.
Is it the same size that you're replacing?
No, it'll be slightly larger, I believe. I think.
Yes, it's 3 foot longer.
3 foot
And the
longer.
reason for that is because we're relocating the footings. We're keeping some of the old footings, and we needed to extend it so that we could put the new footings in front of the old.
Okay. I think it's a well done application, and it looks appropriate. It's well detailed. The materials are acceptable and nice. And I don't have any comments. I think it's good. Anybody? Brandon, Paul, Dale?
I just have one question. Is the pressure treated being painted?
Right.
No,
No.
Is there consideration for painting it?
I would
Only
have
because
to,
as pressure treated tends to weather, it tends to take on its own inherent character. that may
there's
not
this,
be-
that's a great point. I mean, there's discussion of treating the cedar once it cures up a little. And if we were to treat the cedar, we'd certainly treat the pressure treated as well. But I don't think a dark stain would be in the interest of the owner at this point.
in terms of,
Thank you.
it's just typically we don't like to see pressure treated exposed, even for, on large column or large post columns on a deck of this size when it's elevated and you can see it from multiple vantage points, right? You're not at grade, you're on a slope. So everybody looks up at the underside, right?
So the
At the actual framing, right? It's not something that's typically concealed when it's at elevation like this.
right. We could apply a solid stain that would match pretty closely to the shingles on the house.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't care what color it is.
Yeah. Yeah, pressure treated wood, it turns kind of a greenish
Greenish.
color.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at how much of the pressure treated is visible.
It's hard to
And
tell.
I tend to agree. Yeah, I tend to agree. If you try to paint it to match the cedar, I think it will be a good. Sorry.
Okay.
Paul, Dale, Dipti.
Yeah, I would agree with Brandon and Paul's suggestion about trying to see if we can do something with finishing off. It's not an attractive look to leave it as is with the pressure treated.
Right. All right. You guys have any other comments? To have like a dark stain. Are we all in agreement?
Yes.
As long as the
Okay.
applicant does.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I could
I
make
have
a
enough
motion.
for-
Dale. Any
agree.
comments? Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the exception of finishing the pressure treated cedar with a dark stain. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dipti seconds. All in favor?
Second.
Dipti or Brandon? Dipti. All in favor. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Sure.
So the next on the agenda is 26 Judson. However, none of us have seen this application. Maybe there is a technical glitch and we couldn't review it. Do we have the applicants?
Again, I believe Thomas Haynes, yeah.
Why don't we review the application online and see if it's approvable on the first glance and we go from there.
Hi, can everybody see me?
We could hear you.
No, I can see your name.
Why? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Hi, how are you? Thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Tom Haynes from Haynes Architecture. and I'm presenting an application on behalf of the owner for 26 Judson. I don't know, I do apologize, I don't know how to show the actual floor plans, but I can give you a brief description of what we're doing. So the existing house is a center hall colonial, and we're proposing mostly interior alterations to the inside. The existing kitchen area is the area that we are currently proposing alterations that would affect the exterior. And the owners have a need to reconfigure the existing kitchen. It's a very old-fashioned service type kitchen with servants' quarters, and essentially it's adjacent to a covered porch that connects the existing garage and allows access into an exterior door into an existing small kitchen area. We're proposing to enclose that area as part of the main existing house. And by doing so, we're essentially just covering in a void area that exists there that is essentially a covered porch. I have photos in my proposal that show that existing condition. And also part of this, we are proposing a sliding door and an adjacent window to a mudroom in that area that's being enclosed. So it's a very small, minor alteration. It's 11 foot 9 inches in length, and all of the exterior finishes are going to match existing. So the existing siding is a horizontal cedar siding painted white. We're going to match that. They'll lap it in, paint it so it will match the fascia board. We're going to propose fascia board to match, obviously same depth of that. Our window and door system will be a Anderson 400 series casement window, 6/6 simulated divided light for the window, and the gliding patio door similar. And that really is the full scope of anything that affects the exterior. The reason we are proposing both a sliding door and a window is to take advantage of both light and views to the exterior. There's an adjacent patio, and the owner on the property has an existing gazebo type covered structure on the property. So the access point from the more open floor area kitchen would lead directly out to that area in the yard.
Okay, so Tom, did you guys prepare all what you're telling us, which sounds very interesting, and floor plans and elevations and?
We've submitted full floor plans. I'm not sure why they didn't.
Up on the website, I hear.
Yeah, it's on the website. I'm holding it up.
Okay.
Okay, so if you can see, I don't know that I can control any of this, but so that top elevation would have been the existing.
Tom, let me go to the website. Let me pull up the application because so it's easier for us to understand what we're talking about. For some reason, on the link that I was was going to nowhere.
Yeah, on the Dobbsbury website, the buildings page, it's pretty straightforward on drawing A008.
1 second.
Yeah, on that page, we just wanted to show you an existing elevation view with dashed lines in gray of what the demo would be. To the right of it are 2 photographs of that area that we're talking about, which is in question. And the elevation located at the bottom is a proposed elevation, which include the gliding doors and the double hung window.
So Tom, you're matching existing with the siding that you're gonna extend?
Everything will be seamless. It will look like it's always been there and belongs there, and color will be the same, materials will be the same 100%.
Are you looking at it now?
Seems pretty straightforward to me. I think it looks good.
I'm good.
Yeah, straightforward. I don't see any major issues. Deepti?
I couldn't see it, but I'm fine. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can see.
I can see it. It looks good.
That's good. Okay.
There we go.
So I make the lighting, just exterior lighting, is compliant. I assume, right? I can't see
Yes.
much. Okay, from with the exterior light, and if so, I make a motion to approve as submitted. Let's see if I have a second. Anybody seconds? Paul seconds. All in favor?
Thank you all very much.
All right,
I really
thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Be safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody from 39 Hamilton?
And also 12 Irving. I don't know why it
Okay.
didn't come out on yours. That one we're gonna call too. I see.
Okay. So let me see.
Yeah, 12,
see.
12 Irving, Dan, doesn't come up on the website link.
Yeah, there were no plans. They didn't get the plans in time, but they were in front of us before. They had a problem with the sky plane exposure. They
Okay.
have something now, and they're still in front of planning also. So they just wanted to show you some drawings and see if they're on the right page.
Okay.
This is the drawing that, this is the house that we flipped around, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
So basically, we're gonna have they're gonna have a presentation. Are they available?
They're gonna share their screen. Yeah.
Okay, let's share the screens. We listen. And we'll look at this.
Hello? Hello?
Casper?
Yes, good evening.
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you though.
Now let me just see that.
Okay.
Okay. And how do I share the screen?
On the bottom, there'll be a green arrow. You'll see share screen.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, let me just,
Yes, correct.
okay, sounds good. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for looking at this application one more time with us. I just want to do a little recap of what we have gotten so far. So this is our property in the corner of Irving and Ogden. There is existing two-story building that we're planning to demolish. The building currently faces Irving Place, which is where I'm pointing with the mouse. So we had been in front of the board, and we have tried to do basically a few different design options. This, I believe the board have already seen, where we create this fairly large mess of a roof line. And the board have directed us towards the sky exposure, which is here, which very largely encroached into the sky exposure plane. And what I have is basically, so this very largely encroached into the sky exposure plane. So the board has have asked us to look at different solutions to basically reduce the mass, I guess, of the roof. What we have done is we have tried to turn the house around. So basically, I'm going to zoom. This is Irving. We tried to face the house towards the Irving Street, while the Ogden would be the side setback, and we had encountered a big issues fitting within the setback lines and placing the house. So today, what I'm about to present is what we've done is we went back towards facing the house towards Ogden, and we have converted the roof from gable end towards a hip roof. So this is basically how the house is proposed to look like. As you can see, we added chimney, and this is how it looks next to the neighborhood. So the board have seen this basically elevation sketch before, but this is the house that we're trying to basically get approved right now. As I'm going to turn on the front elevation. So this is basically Ogden. Irving with the setbacks maintained. And this is the view on the sky exposure. So previously we've been in front of the board. The board had big, I guess, concerns about neighbor from the left side because the sky exposure with the gable end roof was fully, basically the whole corner encroached over it. So by changing the roof to a hip roof, we were able to very lightly just touch that, encroach that exposure. Little bit worse situation happened on the Irving side, which is basically, the street side. So I guess it's a little bit more forgivable, but the building still encroaches in this exposure. This light is a little bit difficult with fitting something that I guess would work for me and my wife. And, still we're trying to get a decent size of the house over there, whatever the lot allows. But that sky exposure is a little bit of an issue for us. What we have also done, we resigned from original idea was to have a full finished attic. We dropped that idea. There is no finished attic. The dormers are just for lighting purposes only, storage on the attic. There is no staircase, just pull down steps. Want to present to the board the, this is the view from the street from Irving Place. As the board can see that we're just the dormers, the peak of the roof just barely touches the sky exposure plane. And I guess the rear is fine. Then on, I guess here, then on the neighbor's side, since the grade is a little bit higher, we're basically fully in compliance because it's done on an average grade at the edge with the building. We're fully in compliance with the sky exposure. So what we've done is this is the I should say I'm sorry. This is the finished basically proposal of what we would be trying to present to the board. And I guess if the board gives us permission, to move ahead with this design, we would be willing to, turn this into full set of architectural drawings and present this, as a filing set during next session. I also want to mention that previously the board had a couple, I guess, suggestions about our earlier designs where we had this peaked roof, gable roof over the front entrance. I believe one of the members said maybe the flat roof would look a little bit better. So that's exactly what we've done. We've pushed the house a little bit back and we created the front portico with a front stoop and eliminated I guess, the front gable on the main roof, just the dormers remained. What I want to show the board is this is the proposed basically site plan. So there were a bunch of comments that we received from the town about placing the mechanical equipment, where the so basically how it's going to look when it's finished. So let me quickly jump to my last presentation here. So what I've done is, oops, this doesn't want to work. Let me just, okay. So what we've done is we created this little schematic over here, where we have a sidewalk. This is our front with the sidewalk going right to the front door. What we want to do is basically have some, like basically a beds for greenery on the side. There is a C pad over here, so we want to extend this a little bit. So from Ogden Avenue, it's pretty concealed. And this greenery, we would like to wrap around towards, Irving Place. So this side is basically our like almost second front of the house because it's going to be fully exposed. So we're trying to have a nice appearance towards around the house. The back, there is a patio in the back. It's all bluestone patio. We're planning to do a fencing all the way around the patio to get a little bit of a privacy and put it together with a gate towards the garage. The garage, we were hoping for a 2-car garage, but unfortunately with the limitations of the lot, we're unable to achieve what we got. So we have to settle for a 1-car garage, which is fine. And we want to do a storage up on top. Despite the board, suggestions to push the garage towards the front, we still would like to get a little bit of the driveway so the kids eventually can play some ball and maybe put a basketball hoop if this is allowable in the future or something like that. So still towards, we're leaning towards a little bit longer driveway with the garage in the back, but still staying compliant with basically the impervious coverages and the building lot coverages. I'm just going to go back to the lot plan. So as we discussed before, there's 2 trees on our property that are landing basically right in our driveway, which is a little bit unfortunate. This is a lot smaller tree, but this is a 20-inch maple, which is a very, very nice and very big tree. And we try to look, this lot limits us with where the house can be placed, where the garage can be placed, just to get a little bit of a patio area in the back. We're kind of forced to, basically ask for a permission to remove this tree. What I want to share with the board also is, let me just zoom out, the elevation. So, oops, 1 second. There you go. So this is the front of the house. What we're trying to do is basically stay within the heights of the B6 stable that's in the village code. So we're trying to keep it below 35 feet. With the pitch is 9/12, so it's a 9 pitch. So it's a greater than 0.3 steep roof. So the code allows you, I believe, to go to 35 feet, and the same for the eave. This we're trying to stay in compliance with. Again, the sky exposure encroaches on this side, and the chimney is fully in the way of sky exposure. The side of the house is, like I said, the dormer just with a peak encroaches, but this is, I don't think anybody's concern. If this is allowable, I don't think it's going to raise any issues over it. The board also had suggested to us looking at front of the house. So what we have done is we have put a little bit taller door with a little bit larger windows. The first floor, we would like to get a 9'4" ceilings. So the window head, we would like to set up at 8 feet. That will give us a nice, beautiful windows. Again, stimulated divided light. We're thinking about Anderson 400 windows. We're thinking about 4 light in the top sash over 1 light on the bottom sash. That would be basically the theme throughout the house. The basement is fully finished, so you can see the window wells. This is a finished playroom side of the basement. So there is 1 window well here on the side and 1 here. This is the mechanical room side. So the basement is going to get egress with the light and ventilation. In the back of the house, what we're thinking about is doing a large slider off of our living room. So there would be again, Anderson multi-slide door system with 3 operational panel that kind of store in a 1 panel position, which kind of would allow us to open to the patio. There is a kitchen, twin casement, and a mudroom entry door. If we're looking at basically the whole second floor has the same size, again, 400 series Anderson windows. Those are for the bedrooms and the bathroom, just providing light and ventilation, and they're all pretty much the same side. Just want to share the neighbor's side. So the neighbors from the left, if we're facing Ogden, there is the 1 close neighbor to the left. There is 1 window to the study and 1 window to the powder room. Basically above it is just a plain wall. He does have 1 window on this gable looking this way, so I don't think it's a very attractive. The houses are fairly close to each other, so there is, basically it's not a very attractive wall. that going to have a lot of windows. And again, this is not a big exposure. And this in the basement, we have another bedroom that I'm going to share with the board in a second that provides the light and ventilation and egress for this bedroom. So now I would like to look at the plans, the floor plans. This is basically the basement plan. The basement plan, stairs coming down. This whole mass is basically a large playroom. As I was mentioning to the board from Irving's side, there is a triple large window well providing light and ventilation. Because it was a little bit short with the calculations, we were forced to add another well in the front, which is pretty much similar to the well on the left, but you can see that the window from A8 to A9, the A9 is basically a little small window that provides just some sort of a ventilation. It doesn't provide egress since this is a storage and mechanical room. Then the bedroom has its own double window, same way, providing lighting and ventilation egress with separate well. A little bathroom, a full bathroom, mechanical room in the center, and storage room. The first floor, it's pretty much an open concept. So when we walk in, we would like the three areas, which is dining, living, and kitchen, to be pretty much open. What we're trying to do is use the full span TGIs, which we confirmed that they're capable.
We can read that, Thomas. I think it's very clear, the organization of the plan.
Okay.
Can you go back to the? Do you have more plans to show? Do you want to?
So what I was planning to do is go over the proposed plans. I have.
The plans are very clear. The attic roof.
Excuse me?
The attic. How big is the attic? What's the height of the attic?
In the house, what's the height of the attic? 1 second.
I'm trying to see what are the means that we can reduce the sky exposure plane on the right side of the house, if there are any means by bringing a few inches the house down, and maybe.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a nine pitch on the roof, the width of the house.
Oh, the pitch is nice. I'm just wondering if where can we reduce a bit of height, maybe at the the basement floor. Maybe we can bring it a few inches down, and maybe we can trim from somewhere a couple of inches, and the sky exposure plane is not going to be that noticeable on the right side of the house.
Okay.
So that's something to try.
So to answer,
yeah, go ahead.
We already we expected this question to be asked. If you look at the back of the house.
Yes, I saw that.
This is very tight, and I believe we only left 6 inches from the highest grade to the sill plate. We would have to.
But at that point, don't we have the wells, the three window wells?
Yes, but the window wells, if I can point to them 1 second, the window wells are. This looks 1 second. This is right here.
Yeah.
On the window wells, this is the high.
Okay, I got it.
So this corner kind of drives up. There is several feet of a drop between the diagonal of the house. So this is actually where the sky exposure, what drives the sky exposure so high. I was trying very hard to work with the architect to reduce the height of this building. It just, there was, several steps that we already took to lower it. It just, this is the best that we came up with, unless we start to reduce the floor heights.
What about the second floor? How high is the second floor? It looks like it's pretty tall.
Well,
8'6".
The second floor is right here. And the second floor is proposed 8'6".
Oh.
Yeah, but Deepti, there is something. I like the proportions of the ground floor, especially the large windows.
Yeah, I was reading it 9 feet 4 inches. I can see.
Yeah.
My glass.
Floor is the first, and the 8'6" is the second.
I think there is something. The proportions are okay, and what's the I assume that there will be eaves and details, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Also, I should probably mention to the board, we're trying to use a TGI system to spend 29 feet and 6 inches. We're forced to use the 14-inch TGI. And conventional framing would be, you know, a 2x10 or 2x12, which is, let's say, 11 1/4. This is 14 inches. So between the two floors, we're, you know, approximately 5 to 6 inches taller than conventional framing would be, you know, in the house. But we're trying to avoid any beams or, you know, sticking down below the ceiling. So that was the drive behind.
So you're not forced. You elect to.
Yes.
And that's your choice. I would like to see more the topography. I think the key is if you see on the left side of, you know, the finished floor of the ground floor vis-a-vis the topography, you have some room to play. Maybe you know, at that corner, maybe you can create something to avoid.
So if you can see, this bottom line represents the bottom of the TGIs. What we are planning to propose on the detail is actually an inner shelf on the foundation to hold the TGIs low and actually bring the concrete up higher, 14 inches, just to allow the barrier for the water and the dirt not to enter the house. So you'll see that, but like I said, we struggle. Yes, there is a couple inches more. The architect, per his advice, felt very uncomfortable lowering any more.
Right.
Because he said that you know, there is also a danger if you're too close to the floor, which I mean too close to the dirt, which I seem to agree with.
I think you might need to do a cut and fill at that point, depending on how high or how low it is. You can cut back and you might need to put a short retaining wall on the right-hand side then.
Correct. Yeah, and it's a minor retaining
pitch away,
wall because you have the well already. Yeah,
So
you have the well and then. Yeah.
if I can ask the board a question. So basically, I'm going to try to go back to my sky exposure so we know where we're going. So what the board is trying to basically, if I understand this well, what the board is going to try to achieve out of it is to sink this house into the ground basically more to clear up this exposure line.
Well, I'm not asking you to clear 100%, but to minimize a little bit. Where can you trim it a little bit? That's the goal.
The portion of the sky exposure plane that's impacted faces Irving, right at the corner.
Right.
Yep.
Irving and Ogden.
It's not an adjacent property that we're encroaching upon, right? We're encroaching
Right.
upon the street.
Correct.
Yes.
You know, my opinion of this is I think you've gone through a lot in terms of juggling different schemes. I had a couple questions, right? I think this is in a good place from my purview, but material selection on the chimney is something that jumped out at me, right?
Yes.
Because it looked like so.
Yes. So let me go back to the elevation. So yes.
So these are really notes for the defined set, right? When it comes through.
Yes.
I think a different material on the chimney would benefit the house.
You're thinking like masonry, or could it be siding?
Something that's in character is going to be my,
Masonry will be nice.
yeah, stone,
Brick.
or brick.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with that. That's in my notes. The character of the chimney is in my notes. Yes.
And then my only other comment to that effect was, a lot of the other changes, whether exterior shutters on the house would benefit on the elevation facing Ogden. And then if you're looking at a privacy fence for the exterior and the back, the 6-foot high requirement isn't, you may be able to go with a different type privacy fence at your patio to kind of give yourself a little bit more privacy of Irving.
And when you mention different kind of a fence, that would refer not a solid kind of a fence. What can you explore that a little bit?
We typically don't allow or approve chain link. It's pretty pretty, but things like a wood slat fence, right, that has some nice detailing to it, right? Things that are facing Irving, you know, you may be able to go for something a little bit higher than 6 foot if needed, you know, given what you're trying to do there, or whether you want to put something else. So, but just when you do the initial, if you are combining a fence into the application, just make sure that you provide details for the fence and heights and what materials you're planning to use.
And question, how does the board, what is the board's opinion about a vinyl fence? Is this, I mean,
No, just the wood.
Yeah.
You're spending so much effort in the house. Why would you go to a vinyl fence? The other question, look, we can look at it. Let's look at your selection.
We typically like aluminum or wood, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
okay, understood. And then the questions that I have, what we were trying to do, because in the previous session we had discussed what kind of a siding, what kind of a trim. We're trying to go with hardy plank or similar, which is Allura, or there's a couple difference, but they're pretty much alike. It's a hardy cement plank. Horizontal lines with pretty much man-made trim, which is going to be AZEK or Versatec, one of the other for the corners. And the windows, we're trying to do block windows from the outside with basically a trim around them.
So I assume that you're going to provide us with a finished schedule board. So all the selections are what you're describing are. They seem reasonable and nice. My question is on the 4/1 SDL windows that you have. I think for the type of house that you're doing, and Dipti, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 6/1. I think the character of the house is a 6, not over 4, but that's not my.
I disagree, Yair. I think that 4/1 would be acceptable in this instance.
Okay.
I just need to say my wife said thank you.
But I have a couple of questions, and I'm sure your architect is probably going to address this, you know, when you come back with a final version. As Yair or I forget, Brandon pointed out, there'll be more details with the fascia. I think the roof is so massive, it would do with a bigger overhang. You know, your overhang is a little puny for the size of the roof and the slope. Also, would you consider trying out hip roofs at the dormers?
That's nice too.
Maybe perhaps making them a little bigger if you pull them forward.
The dormers, yes, definitely I can see your point. We can definitely play with
if you can play around with that and see what looks good, because they just look like eyes right now, you know.
Yes, agreed.
So dormers, we can look in enlarging. Initially, when we presented the first time in front of the board, and I'm just going to point out, I think this was this. This is shown with a 2-foot overhang. We had the same impression over, you know, the mass of the roof versus the overhang. So initial, we've done a 2-foot overhangs. The only problem that we encounter was that, one second, when we start to come really close to the top of the window, there is not enough siding shown. The way we're going to be proposing to do the structure on this roof is to actually sit the roof rafters on the second floor plate. So the post and the rafters share the same plate. So we're trying to step to reduce it so the whole structure is below 35 feet. And this already, you know, I'm just going to have to work a detail. We didn't, you know, initially we spoke about maybe some treatment of the molding underneath, maybe not, but it starts to be that tight. And both, you know, between me and my wife, we would like to see a little bit siding in between the windows, so we wouldn't like the roof to touch it. Larger overhang on a 9-inch pitch is going to basically drop it significantly down. So that was the issue why we held the overhangs at 12 inches.
But your fascia is very big. You can reduce the size of your fascia.
Well, but we are missing the leaders and the gutters and the leaders and all those details that are going to inform this because it looks like an unfinished fascia basically.
Yes.
And so by the time that you add the details, I guess we're
Yep.
gonna see something different.
That's
But I agree with Deepti. The dormers look out of character with the roof. They look not very well proportioned, and even the window sill might be a little high. I don't know what's the relationship of the window sill to the. I don't know what you
It
intend to
actually-
do. Yeah, what you intend to do, but they look, maybe they can drop a little bit, and
It looks like the elevation of the dormer, the bottom of the dormer isn't hitting the roof on the side elevation in the appropriate relationship. It would be smaller. From the side elevation, the dormers are quite huge, and then from the front elevation, they look quite tiny. But
Yes.
if I projected a line from the bottom of the dormer in the bottom of the roof, and it seems that your elevation might be off.
Yep, yeah, I see your point. Definitely the bottom line where at least the course lower. So the dormers were, it looks like they would be a one course of a shingles larger if we,
yeah, probably.
And that would actually help. So with the out of the board's meeting tonight, the direction would be to put a small retaining wall. I should share this, I guess, with the site plan. What we're trying to do is, trying to have a little bit enclosed backyard, especially for the peace of mind when you have young kids. You let them out, and you don't have to worry as much of physical running away, from open door. So we were planning to put a gate and a gate. If we put a retaining wall, we would have to look at at how this eventually gets resolved, as far as, because this is where we would need to retain the dirt. Eventually, somewhere here, come up with the solution. I was trying to avoid it with having gradual pitch. But if the board, if this is what the board thinks the best, I'm not a huge fan of the retaining walls myself. The kids fell off of them, and we had them at one of our houses, and it was always an issue. So we were trying not to end up with it. And that's why I'm asking the board if the sky exposure is, but what exactly is the board trying to achieve, inches or more towards a feet? Because a foot. If it's closer to a foot, then I have no choice but to go back to the architect and ask him for a retaining wall. If it's inches, we can look how to reduce the fascia size and stuff like this. So
my sense, Thomas, is we are not talking about dropping so much. I will accept a degree of encroachment, but try to minimize it as much as possible. The other thing that they would like to see, if to make an utmost effort to save that 20-inch diameter tree. I think that if that's it's not a 2-car garage, you can probably fit the car comfortably, and you don't have to kill that tree. It's a nice tree to kill. It's your property too.
Is that within the property line? Is that in the?
Well, the property line is here, so the tree is outside the property line.
I don't think that.
Town doesn't allow it, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's really going to defer.
I think you can do a smaller curb and then make it wider inside your property line.
Correct. Once you clear the tree, you can make it wider.
Well, from what I'm going to say, it's a tree is a living element of art. So yes, it's a beautiful tree, but for any driveway to last, that tree is going to basically raise up, and eventually it's going to get to a point where you're going to, in order to get the driveway in, we all know you have to look at the tree crown. And if you really want to preserve the tree, you have to look at the crown and drop a straight line down. That crown, we looked, and I have a picture. 1 second, I'm going to bring a picture somewhere of how the, 1 second. There you go. So
yeah, but it's
this is the tree.
It's one of the nicest features of your site, and of the street.
Something that you don't own.
Oh no! All I'm trying to say to the board is, in my experience, and been doing this for a little bit, of the time is if we really want to preserve the tree, it's not that we can move 3 feet away from the trunk of a large tree and actually dig down to get a proper base and proper driveway in and reduce the width of the curb. The tree needs a space from the tree trunk in order to live and to grow. And the moment I'm going to be putting this driveway in.
Okay, so we can look into that. Let's have an arborist coming up with
That's gonna-
solutions.
gonna go in
I'm
front
not
of the
a
site
tree
plan.
specialist, yeah.
Don't
And
we
it's a
just
site
go in
planning
front of the
issue
tree
also.
commission or whatever that's called?
What?
Yeah, what, isn't there a specific committee for tree?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
there's a
gonna go in
tree-
There's a
front of,
tree
when the
committee.
site, when the site plan gets approved at the planning board, it'll be in front of them. So
Yeah,
they'll approve if it'll be removed or not.
yeah, we try not to. It's a shame. It's one of the nicest things in Irving. Anyway, I think we cover all the issues, the dormers, the chimneys, the tree. Anything else? There is a door in the back of the house.
Correct.
That seems a little bit over designed, especially the little roof. Just take a look at it. The door is fine. I'm just saying that that the cover, I think it's too much. If you make it straight, a straight line, it will be okay.
Pretty much like in the front, what you're asking for is a portico kind of covering.
No, I'm just saying like a one pitch, a single pitch cover.
Like a shed.
A shed, yeah. Where you can use the same brackets and it's fine.
Yep.
Okay, all right, so this, okay, we can see how, how this can be incorporated. I mean, this is the side view, so what you're saying is basically making a line.
Yes. You create too much attention to that when it's not needed. In any event, I think we cover all the comments, and let's see if we can have the submission in time for proper review next time. But that's not your fault, I think.
That's okay. I mean, we weren't 100. I needed to go in front of this board to understand the few issues. So we're going to try to address, based on today's meeting, a lot of them, and get back to you with pretty much final set of plans. And we're going to try to submit it with Dan.
Thank you, Thomas.
So everybody can upload and them prior to the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Is this a submission, or do we have to make a continuation?
Yeah, we could continue it because
Okay.
continue.
But
it.
we need to vote on a continuation or no? It's a submission?
It will be, yeah, because they did a mailing on it already. It was continued from last time.
Okay. Already. Any neighbors? Do we have any neighbors, comments, or anybody? Okay, so I make a motion to continue this application to the next meeting. Seconds. 2 seconds. 50 seconds. All in favor. Thank you, Thomas. Casper, sorry. I said,
It's looking good. I think it's a great improvement. Thank
yes.
All right. Thank you again, and everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Okay, so I think we don't have anybody from Hamilton, 39 Hamilton.
We don't have any attendees.
No.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue Hamilton to the next meeting. Seconds. Dipty seconds. All in favor. Thank you. And any other more comments? Any neighbors? Any announcements? So I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Seconds.
Second.
Dipty seconds. All in favor. Thank you very much. Everybody stay healthy and safe.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good